We are back for another episode of Enserio, coming to you live from Corpus Christi at our Chispa, Texas office, because we are from here.
Are you from here, Anita?
Like, I'm from the area, okay? I'm from the other side of the bridge. Where does that count?
Where did you blow in here from? What brings you in Park?
Other than
I love how they say that about being outsiders. Like, whatever, God. That's they wanted like create something that is conflict of interest. I just makes me so
Divide people, I don't know what they're getting at.
like, you know, they seize land from other counties.
Yeah,
They give away our water. They have impacts on all the other on all the local communities.
yep, like, they only allow us, if you're not from Corpus Christi proper, a minute to call in because you are an outsider. But yet they let all of these industries like give a 15-30 minute presentation in front of the county, and they're like, oh, you're so amazing, you're so great, but you know what, we pay our taxes here, we have an office here, we're not asking the city for no tax breaks, and we're job creating.
Exactly.
And one of the things that bothered me that I heard somewhere was one of the councilmen that's running, he made the comment that they are here to kind of promote this industrial build out and to preserve our way of life. And I found that really stupid. I don't know another word for it, really stupid, because first of all, this build out is occurring mostly in San Pat. All right, so where you live, Taft, Gregory, Portland, Aransas, all the way, that is where the build out's happening. It's not happening in District 3. Okay, so how can they, no, it is ridiculous. How can they say they're preserving a way of life when it's not even affecting their way of life, it's affecting other people that aren't given a voice. And it is radically changing their way of life. I don't ever remember waking up to a daytime flare at all times. It's not nighttime in Portland anymore. There's no nighttime. You know, I don't remember growing up and seeing what I see there now. I don't remember I remember like fishing, swimming, kayaking. I don't remember 5 desal plants in the bay. So what way of life are they preserving? You know, I don't know. Lies.
Lies. I mean, that flare, I could see it from like the house,
Yeah.
you know, from like the one, I think it was Lyondell. That was, you know, flaring a few weeks ago.
That it was
That
on.
glow was on that, and then like, you know, when Exxon has its ground flare, you see it on the other side, and it's just, you know, it's like this really like
Yeah,
scary looking orange glow in the sky.
it was
And then
so bad.
there's like a train that passes through our town, and it's got its horn blaring at 11:30. There's like another one usually around 1 or 2:30 in the morning, then at 4 and 5. And so that's the way of life that they want to promote
Yeah,
when it's like impacting us.
when the Lyondell was flaring, and it was like that for like a week. I mean, it was like day after day after day. You could hear it from my house, you could hear it. My kids were like jogging outside, and it was like, I don't really know that you should be jogging outside right now. You know, it was just really affecting your way of life. You can't go outside. It was so bad. I mean, it's probably 2-3 miles from where I live. And it was just like, we went to our church carnival, and I didn't even want to stay because it was just so, it looked like a sunrise. Like our sky wasn't dark that whole week. Our sky, you look outside and it's an orange sky at all times. And our escape used to be going to grandma's, who is not an outside infiltrator from anywhere. Those are my parents who live across the bridge in San Pat. And now we go there and it's go inside too because Chenier's flaring, and it's just, you know.
Yeah, I was driving over here on the way, you know, for today, and you know, when the humidity is a little bit lower, like you can see all of the monstrosities out there. And you know, there's that big, like, it looks like a chimney thingy stack. And I was like, gosh, that is so ugly. And then I think about the
Almost
pictures.
surreal, right?
Yeah, it's a weird, like, futuristic, but like
Yeah.
Armageddon-y,
Yes.
you know, like a
Yeah.
Blade Runner. I don't know, I used to think
Yeah.
like those end of times. And then when people, Mad Max, when people like take a picture of Corpus, they always do like the skyline, they're like, crop.
They catfish with those big reports. Yeah, that's them catfish.
Like, don't look over there, don't look over there. Don't look over there.
You know, when you get out in town, you see, it's not to just attack the leaders and just attack them, but like, it's time for a change, because you look around and it's like, okay, well, all of your accomplishments that you're listing, they sound good, but I'm like driving, I'm literally like this councilman, and I'm like, oh. And it's not one more time. After I cross the war zone. Yeah. And after I cross, I mean, how many people are gonna die on crosstown?
Yeah.
You know, after I pass Hillcrest, what used to be Hillcrest, after I'm running from Lyondale. And I'm driving, and that's all I see. So it's like, it's not that we just wanna complain and attack you, it's just, I'm not seeing.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
but you know, when we went to when we were at the announcement about the Title VI, is that what it's called?
Yeah, the
Complaint?
Title VI complaint.
And I was driving to the church that's down the street from where the desal plant is going to be. And I was like, dang, this is the road to the port. It is
Yeah.
so nice, that concrete,
Yeah.
no potholes. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, man, the industry gets the goods.
Yeah.
And then we get the pollution, we get the, like, having to shoulder the burden of them not paying their fair share. You know, everybody gets what, you know, like, the negative externalities, the
Yeah.
costs associated with this stuff.
Yeah, you get fined for using water,
Mhm.
while they keep on saying, well, they pay 25 cents they voluntarily pay 25 cents for every 1,000 gallons.
You know what I asked, where can I go buy a couple thousand gallons for this? What city office, where really, I get a couple thousand gallons, and not to make plastic, like to keep my grass alive, to keep, and you know. In our own way, we support the community. We have a company who comes and they don't charge us very much, but they rely on that, on coming and cutting grass and grass growing, and it works. You know, it's not just your way of life. Or not you, but it's not just these people who have been in power really for a long, long time.
Mhm.
I mean, if you've been running around in politics for 30 years. You've had time to fix the roads.
Yes.
You've had time to show what you're made of. You've had time to show your wonderful whatever. But you know, they talk about this way of life, and it's like, that's my way of life. Like, he comes and he mows, and I know that, you know, I usually make the kids do it, but there's times that we can't, and they know they can rely on that, you know, they can, and so like, really, where can I buy a couple thousand gallons? For 50 cents.
Oh, I know. And the other thing I was thinking, like you say
I
that.
could do a lot with that, you know?
What, and for the greater good, had to actually get money or find money. We wrote a grant so that the park that we adopted could have irrigation for the trees.
And it
and
makes
the plants.
such a difference.
Mhm.
I just went for the first time, I'm just ashamed, and you drive up to that park and you see. The houses around it are kept up a little nicer. You see the pride, you see like. And you just drive up and it's green, it's something pretty in the middle of something that's not pretty, and it's the water.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
the water, because you go to other parks and they don't look like that, no
Yeah.
matter how much equipment they wanna come put in. No matter how much they wanna, you know, they get all these deals to do splash pads and it's like, you just need the water.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all, and not 25 million gallons a day either.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, that is something like, you know, they're making you write a grant so you can have an irrigation system to improve like a public property. like the park that people take pride in, and, thank y'all so much for having it, because we had our community ofrenda there, a couple weeks ago, and it was just so beautiful to have that space. But here they are using money that they got from a lawsuit, when they had that backflow back in 2016, and then they have to go back and give it to industry rather than investing in the
Did you
communities.
see that exchange, like wink, wink, it's written in there where we're gonna like make sure that the backflow preventer doesn't hurt them too much, it was.
It was what,
And
$2
there's
million?
money, yeah, and he's like, and there's money there from our settlement, from.
So yeah, Mike Pusley, so it was Lyondale, actually, and. He was talking about, the representative was talking about like, well, I live in this area, but Lyondale isn't even in the boundaries, right? So they're outsiders, right?
Cause they have them de-annex the land so they can make
Yeah.
less in taxes, right?
Right, and so then he comes in and he talks about wanting to have an extension so that he doesn't, so they don't have to be held accountable for their backflow preventer. And then the city says, well, yeah, that's, from the money that we got for the fine, like, I just, yeah, and with the other thing, like, can we please have a light and maybe some benches, but it looks like we're gonna actually have to pay for those things too.
And another thing that was annoying about that was how Paul was like, take your time, you talk as long as you want, when, everything that comes in there and it's a minute, get out, go away.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that it's like, don't be mad that we had to go talk to people behind your back because you ignored us.
Yeah.
And you were rude and you threw us out and you would refuse to listen. My dad and I, who we don't belong to, I'm just a person, I'm a nobody who wanted to just back up my dad, because he doesn't want a desalination plant,
Literally in his backyard.
literally in his backyard. And we started with the elected officials. We did not go out and seek support from Washington and from evildoers of the world. We have probably now what are thousands of emails that were ignored, that were unanswered. We went to the meetings, we called in, we were always ignored. Mr. Barrera, Mr. Pustule, go look in your email boxes and you probably have years worth of questions that you refuse to answer. We were just, from day one, we don't talk to them. So, don't be so shocked when we don't go away and try to get out and inform the community and get other people to listen or seek help from people who are willing to listen.
Yeah.
I mean, who are just at least willing to listen and at least willing to take the time to say, okay, you have something to say, I'm seeing it, I'm living it too, and so that bothered me a lot because I know for a fact that I know I can speak for myself and like my family went directly to them. They were number one because that's what you do. You reach out to your elected officials like they did, like in the valley, for example.
Yeah.
With the school districts that had the guts to turn down the 313s and say, I remember one of the school board people down there said, I'm not even against this, but just the simple fact that this is what the people want is what I have to do. Like he wasn't even really.
That's so weird.
He wasn't even opposing LNG or anything, but to him, it was like, I'm not gonna come to work every day and listen to horror stories about, and I don't have the article, I'll look at it, look for it, maybe we can link it, because it was a really good article.
Point Isabel, right?
Or Point, what is it called? Yeah, Point Isabel, down there, and so that was like so mind-blowing to me. It was like, wow, imagine. And we never had that here.
Or even to like, actually, this is one of my to-dos when I have a little bit more time. I want to go back and look at the city council meetings and look at how many executive sessions they've had. And then what are the subject matters? Because it seems like they're always going in an executive session and all this stuff is happening behind closed doors. And to me, like public institutions, public officials like the bit there, it should be the public's business.
They use
And
and abuse
Yeah.
that executive session. Almost all the water stuff, after they threw us out and did all that, has been executive session. A lot of it has been that. I mean, hours they're in there.
yeah,
3 hours, and it's just, and you, when the agenda will just say like lawyers.
it's all
Look,
3 hours.
It's like desal rules, desal regulations, desal tech, this lawyers, and it's like, we were gonna talk to y'all for free about all of
Yeah.
that. You know?
Because we do our homework, we have to read the permits, we have to, because we're not getting it from the industries, we're not getting it from our council members, we're not getting it from anybody, so we have to go and
Yeah.
look at the permits and read what's actually in the permits, and you find out so much information, from those permits, and they're not doing it, all they're
And they-
doing is like,
and-
oh,
And then they refuse to
$100,000?
like sit down and have a conversation about it too, so it makes it very hard to believe them when they say, just trust us, we put together this consort, or what did he say, of experts, and just believe us, they're experts, just believe us. And it's like,
that worked out for that crypto.
yeah, worked out real good. On that too. And that worked out real good with the projects around town that are like not.
I mean, when I think of the story, the Emperor's New Clothes, like all of them have that, and they're being like, here they being like, oh, I'm like dressed so regal and I'm doing so great. And everybody's just kind of like, what? Like, that is like them, but they're so like narcissistic.
Yeah.
And yet, so like, oh, we know, we're the professionals, we've been doing this forever. Well, look how that's working out for you.
Yeah.
Their answer, their go-to is the technology's improving. They love that line. They love that. Well, they should make a t-shirt. The technology is improving. And that is their line for everything. And it's like, people who really do know desalination are kind of like, nah, not really.
Nope.
And not in what the city's planning.
Not for that budget.
I remember, did you, that 220, they might have leftover, like that might not even, it might not even cost that much, and I'm just like, what are you? Are you not, look at what they ended up paying in California, look at what they ended up paying in Tampa Bay, look at the failures that those plants were, before you say things like that.
And then they're like the uninterruptible desal, they're like, wait, we have to actually shut down the desal plant and then work on it for months, right? It's the desal plants are out of commission. Okay, this is scary.
The Tampa one is like intermittent. It's like they shut it off for a while because, and that's one of the things that the engineer that helps us out has been screaming and yelling about, that they had a lot of problem with that intake water. With the water coming in, it's very, like the way he described it was, when you use like desalination to desalinate like brackish water or whatever, it's like a polishing thing. Kind of like what the ones that you get from Home Depot, they kind of polish. But this is not, they're drawing this water from the bay where the chemistry is very complicated and all of that, is going to clog up their own thing. From an engineering standpoint, your shit, can I say shit, is gonna fail from it like it did in Tampa Bay. And they were not even doing the trough and toilet in the same little area like they are, and they were not doing 5 plants, and they were doing a smaller plant. So it's so much on that they don't want to talk about.
And then Blanca, okay, so this is the other thing, right? So if they build a desal plant, like kind of like with Exxon, they said yes to Exxon, y'all can come, and then they started pursuing desal because they knew that
They needed to provide.
that we, like, our cushion was gone, right? And then they're gonna bring, like, they're gonna be like, we've got these 5 plants are gonna be here, y'all keep coming. And then they talked about it as an uninterruptible supply. So when those go down, when they have to be repaired, where's the water gonna come from?
We're gonna be sucking mud from the Choke Canyon.
But,
That's what we're gonna be doing.
but what's gonna happen to us? Like the people, the schools, the hospitals, the small businesses. I am so scared about that.
And the way they treat us in meetings and the way that I already know who's gonna get water first. I already know who's gonna get water and who's gonna be stuck trying to drink something that's never gonna be palatable. Because
Oh.
that's another thing that we heard from, I don't know, another expert
Yeah,
that I trust because they were willing to talk to us.
yeah.
And the Choke Canyon is gonna get so low to where that's gonna start really tasting.
Yeah.
Wasn't Choke Canyon, didn't they have something going on with the bottom of their
Yeah,
lake too?
Yeah, we're Jackson and we're
Yes.
like, we need bottled water.
like we were.
We
back
already,
in-
yeah, with
We
all the
won't, but we
water.
won't be able to have those places, because there won't be water going to those stations.
And they don't even have like the elevated storage
Yeah,
amounts that we need, and that's the thing, like, what have y'all been doing all these years that Mary Rose is not operating at capacity? We could draw from Mary Rose what a desal plant would give us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I understood,
well, I think,
but they let that go.
I was say, didn't they give that away?
They.
Oh,
said
has
it's
it already
excellent.
been? Yeah.
And yeah, and it's still
So-
dynamics, huh?
Yeah, and so dynamics, and the thing is, like, you know, for all these industries, they're already taking water from the bay, like Cheniere uses bay water for its cooling towers. And
Do
then
they just use it
so,
raw?
yeah, and so, but they have wastewater too that goes back, and they're gonna be seeking like some sort of amendment to their wastewater permit.
When does it end, you know?
And so all this stuff, like, they're not thinking of, like you said earlier, all that gunk that's in the bay, you have the silt, you have the heavy toxins, you have the chemicals, you have all that. The plastic nurdles,
High
because those
salinity,
are, yeah, and
and the higher the
salinity.
salinity, the higher the electricity cost.
And then it's gonna
desalinate.
corrode those pipes.
Yeah.
You know, that salt is corrosive, mix that with chemicals, I don't know, like, de verdad, no sé qué piensan, like, en serio, like, what are they thinking?
Right.
You know, they're like, oh, well, that's gonna work, just like, oh, if we get these desal plants, they just recently voted to give an agreement to a net zero, like, carbon fuel, like, it's a green hydrogen facility. It's like green hydrogen consumes a lot of power and a lot of water. And
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
so, and it's something new, like, you know, they're looking at it because they're getting funding from the
Okay,
Inflation
hold on one second.
Reduction Act.
We're gonna do a transition to the next
Okay.
topic. So we
Yes.
wanna learn about green hydrogen because the city entered into an agreement.
Yes,
Okay, let's talk about what green hydrogen is first, or whatever.
Yeah.
so green hydrogen is a form of, like, it's a fuel that they are using as the next transitional fuel. That's what they said about, you know, frack gas or liquefied natural gas or natural gas, that it was gonna be a transitional fuel. And it was gonna help,
they're
like, you know,
selling it
everything, and they're selling it off, but with this green hydrogen. Germany is already looking at, hey, we can buy green hydrogen from the US. So they're gonna be using our water. And our electricity to produce this product, and they're saying, well, it's gonna be built on renewables. Why aren't they investing in renewables for the people to help bring down the prices that we're paying? Instead, they're building all these renewables to then also seek subsidies. So that they can build out like their programs when they're like billion-dollar companies. They just need to pay their fair share. So with green hydrogen, it takes water. Because that's what gives it the green part. It's not you know, you're still using natural gas as a feedstock, but not to the levels of, you know, like the purples, the pinks, all that.
Okay.
Like they still need that gas feedstock, but it's gonna be mixing with hydrogen and then they're gonna be breaking it apart. And so that's why they're like all transitioning to this like green hydrogen color. So if you look at the hydrogens, the green hydrogen one is like the one that's more eco-friendly.
Okay.
So is that why they call it green? I know that's a
Yeah.
different question, but.
No,
or
it's
the-
not that
yeah,
question.
Color.
No, it's
So-
because of the minimum, like, it's the least impactful to the environment as far as like processing. But is also a heavy like impact to the environment because of the amount of electricity and water.
So kind
that
of
it
like
takes to
the
produce.
scam that's been packaged as environmentally friendly.
Yeah, it's a false solution.
And so what they're accusing certain groups of is what they are actually doing. They're
Exactly.
bringing in these green environmental things that are fake. And,
Yeah.
and they are the ones bringing them in.
It's
Not you, not
it's-
your group.
It's greenwashing.
Greenwashing.
Just to clear that up, yes.
Yes.
So now the people that have been saying our industries are going green? Is it ours?
Yeah, it's not. So what they're saying is that they're gonna capture, like, you know, instead of emitting this, you know, I don't know, methanes or whatever, like emissions into the air, they're gonna trap it and use it to like, you know, convert it into this like fuel, but.
sounds
it's
hard.
called, you know, the thing is like, it's an unregulated industry because it's such a new technology, and guess what, we're gonna be the guinea pigs, because it's gonna be the first of its kind in the nation.
So this isn't preserving a way of life that we have.
No.
It's not a way of life that we've ever had here.
No,
That's interesting too. Okay, so these are more experiments. This is not
we're
to
experimenting.
preserve our way of life here in the coastal bend, because our coastal bend's never seen this nonsense here.
Just like we've never seen desal in a closed base system.
Yeah, we're the guinea pigs, and all they're doing is they're trying to sell this to like these intellectual council members who feel like they know it all because, let me see, what was the comment that was made on a recent interview where we were like targeted? It said that. Okay, so they said that we have never gone into non-attainment. You know why?
We don't have monitors.
We don't-
I like it. I read that the port was doing like emissions testing or something, free emissions on the vehicles, and I was like, why would people testing it? You know, it's like.
So here's the thing is, we gotta leave it to elected officials that understand the complicated process. I should go.
I was pretty sure that they didn't read.
You know, I'm pretty sure they probably have a review something that goes to the thing. So it's like, you know, how can they understand the complicated process when, like with this crypto mining facility, they got the information on the Friday and by Tuesday they were already voting on it.
And what makes me the maddest was that people, not outside influencers and wizards from out of town, people that are informed, that knew, called in and said, there's going to be e-waste, and that's what, now there's trash out there, right? There's going to be, they gave all the reasons, and honestly, I believe them, because but nobody wants to take time out of their day to go talk to the city council. No, nobody wants to do that. Nobody. So for people to do that, for people, especially not those elected officials that are just so downright nasty and mean. They took time out of the day to go tell them about this, and then what happened? They didn't listen.
They didn't listen. No, look what's happening with crypto right now.
So what did the city lose in that deal? Cause I was a little fuzzy on it. Maybe you could.
So
Tell us.
because it hasn't been built yet, like they've built 2 transformers out there, but the land hasn't been used, and they have until I think next year to like build on this project, or the city can re-annex that land.
But they're already
But
behind,
I'm
right?
pretty sure, yeah, they're behind, and the city used it as an excuse of like, we're gonna make so much money off of it. Like, I guess we need to file an open records to see how much money they've actually been paid
Oh, so
from
there's
April
money.
to December. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole reason. They're like, well, this is gonna be a moneymaker for us. So it's like, well, like that whole Jerry Maguire thing, show me the money.
Yeah, and
right?
I heard a public comment from a resident who said that, oh, my mind's going blank, sorry, but I can't, he brought up something that I thought was interesting about the land, about like re-annexing it, but then there was something else. If it comes to me, I'll interrupt. I'm sorry, I can't think right now, but it was something. Oh, that's what it was, that he said the company doesn't even have a phone number. I was like, oh. Like, there's not even like a phone number listed for the anyway. I think they broke up with it.
Well, it's like with this net zero line LLC, like they just incorporated last year. And yet they're gonna do this here to.
And they've already rezoned, right? They rezoned the area.
I don't, I think it's already rezoned as a Deer with Miller, but they gave them a 380 tax agreement of $500,000.
And what's that mean?
We honestly had never heard of a 380.
The new
I
one.
think it's a 313, 312, like all these, so, but the city gave them the 380, and so that means like they're giving them a tax break on, you know, this.
They always give them a certain.
Yeah, always, and so what they're doing though, like this is unproven technology, but because of the funding that they got from the Inflation Reduction Act, now like everybody is like floating this salt solution as a way of us being able to reach this 1.5 degrees Celsius, like pre-industrial temperature that we need to we cannot.
So we're not in climate catastrophe.
So we're not in climate catastrophe. And so I was in Egypt last week for COP27. And that's all that was being floated out there. Like the only way we're going to solve this climate crisis is through carbon capture, storage, and hydrogen. And
And that's now being ushered in by the city council.
Yeah, but really, like, if we were, I mean, I guess people are in industry is in love with technology and this new stuff because this is what I think, because it's so complicated, we have to leave it to the experts, and so then the experts get to get all the money and get the rewards. But like, one of the ways that you decrease pollution is like stop polluting, so like don't use styrofoam, right? How about have water that's drinkable so that we can drink? I mean, like so remember, I mean, maybe we should have been doing it, but like drinking from the manguera, like there's
Cut back on the plastic.
there's trees.
1.5 gallons of water to produce one bottle of plastic. Like 1.5 gallons.
And the irony that the people that came for our water are making plastic to sell us bottled water.
Yeah.
They're using our water to sell us bottled water.
Yeah.
So this joint venture, the plastics facility, Gulf Coast Growth Ventures it's a partnership between ExxonMobil and then SABIC, the Saudi Arabian, company. Which,
and we have.
and they have like a huge here in Texas, I think there's 2.
So
And then
there's
like CP Polymers is trying to come online to produce like
But Lyondell's making plastic too, right? That big flare.
I don't
I don't
know.
know what
It just makes me wonder, like, how many
sure there's some
plastic
sort of-
companies do we need here for these jobs? Like, how many, like, if they're so great, wouldn't like 2 or 3 cover it, as far as jobs? Like, how many plastics plants do we need here to preserve this way of life that you're talking about?
Here's the thing,
Councilman,
you don't need these plastics plants. The plastics plants need, like the natural gas companies need these plastics plants, because for a while, natural gas wasn't wasn't a moneymaker, and yet they had a whole bunch of it. So they had to find, like, what can we do to use this product and continue to profit off of it? So that's where it was like, we can build more plastics plants. And that's the natural gas that's being exported, the frack gas or methane gas that's being exported. Some of it is gonna go to be used for, other countries, like for their energy needs. But they don't have the infrastructure in place for that either. But we suspect that a lot of it's gonna be used for plastics production in other countries.
And the thing is, like, globally, there are movements around eliminating plastics, right? So like single-use plastics, there's this, and so they're trying to find new markets to be able to use these plastics. And so like kind of coming back to like that Inflation Reduction Act, we could have a positive impact on greenhouse gases and climate change by having more eco-friendly production. I mean, like, we have yards and we could rethink yards so that we're like at the park, we have fruiting trees, we have fruiting bushes. Like, we could do that in neighborhoods, and it'd be seasonal food. But that's like the really fancy people, they're like, it's locally sourced season. And
It's organic, right?
and it's like that, and we could like eliminate the need to grow. I mean, maybe and actually it might make growing tomatoes, and when tomato season comes, like, more exciting. And we'd have to adapt. It still feels so out of kilter, because we could create jobs by helping communities, better do their like windows and solar panels. Like, that was something we were talking about too, like in my house. There was that, well, you can get solar panels. We're like, okay, well, let's look into it. And whatever company is, I don't know if it's CPNL or whoever it is, AEP, But we've been trying to look at like what's going on. It's been months and months. And we still aren't in that space yet, you know?
And that's, I think it's just like that mindset that just closed-minded, I'm not gonna change, like, one of the other things that bothered me. Was when that councilman said that, the plastics. First of all, he made a very stupid comment that not we, but that he's being attacked because of the oil and gas industries. And Exxon is not an oil. It's plastic. Plastic.
Somebody tell them where the plastic comes from.
And these are what.
The experts.
Plastic, but it is oil and gas industry. It is.
Yeah.
So, but his point was that we have plastic in everything and.
Including our bodies.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know, it won't be long before they're gonna tell us to eat plastic.
We are eating plastic.
Yeah, eat some plastic, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Everything, yeah.
So his point was like, if you're wearing one of those, Under Armour shirt or fishing shirts or Under Armour shirts, that's got plastic in it. If you've got this, that's got plastic in it. Well, it's been foisted on us, and historically, that's how they do that. They foist it on a civilization, and then it's like it's there. It's been forced on you. But and that's a tough one, I think, for a lot of people, because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm driving around and I'm like, okay, plastic. I know that, I'm conscious of it and everything, and I know that it's not gonna be overnight, we're all gonna be back in loincloths, but. You can think like, okay, maybe it would be inconvenient and maybe we wouldn't have aisles upon aisles of plastic clothing. But I could live without a plastic shirt if I had to. I mean, I could. I can't live without water.
yeah.
Nothing can live without water. So like, when it comes down to it, like, we kind of need to question that, because that narrative that that's just the way things are, and you use plastic, so shut up. Well, yeah, I mean, I also eat fast food, but ideally, I probably shouldn't do that, like.
Yeah.
It could be something that I could move away from. It could be something that I could slowly cut back on. Like, I've noticed myself, like, I don't do like Christmases and birthdays and things like that like I used to. It's just
Sure.
kind of like, I don't have to go pick up a piece of plastic at the store
Yeah.
to show you that I care. I don't have to pick up this, it slow changes. I'm not saying that's the solution, I mean, but like I said, I could live without an Under Armour shirt. I can't live without water.
No. And so that's the thing, like, at COP27, like the reason why we had all these like bulk solutions and greenwashing things is because this year they had over 600 lobbyists from the oil and gas industry.
At COP
At COP27. And so COP27 is like the conference of parties, that was put together by the United Nations. I think there's like over 197 countries and territories that come together to try to solve climate change, but it's been co-opted by the oil and gas industry. Like the top two sponsors of that event were Coca-Cola and Nestle.
Oh, my God.
Like, and so it felt like a trade show. There was people trying to bring back, there was, this whole thing on carbon, the Japanese had like the carbon capture and hydrogen, like ideas. Then there was people like saying we need to go back to nuclear, and like, we're like, what about nuclear waste? And they're like, well, if done right, that's not going to be an issue, and we just need the right regulations. And it's like, as a Texan, we know that there are no regulations because this oil and gas industry like owns these people.
I mean, I was thinking about how, there's definitely periods in Corpus where it's super hot and, uncomfortable. And there's like a couple of days a year where it's like super cold. But there are other things that we could do that would be amazing. I mean, I don't know if you guys, when you were little, but for me, I remember riding my bike and it being like fun, you're going fast. And, like if we had bike paths and we had trees that could like with shade, like, there are things that we could do that could actually enhance our quality of life, make cities more livable, make food more accessible, make the need for fossil fuels less like Yeah, and I mean, and because it's like, why do I need, going back to,
Yeah.
why do I need to give shit knacks at a Halloween thing? Cause it feels good, you know, you wanna pass out little, you know, like plastic teeth for Halloween, or, you know, little, like those little bunnies that they would put in, that you, with the spring. You don't,
And
Yeah,
just in our lifetime, it's changed so
Yeah.
much.
and how much of that stuff gets thrown away anyway?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just for me, I mean, my parents are cheap though, but like in my lifetime, like it just seems like that's so much more, like when my kids were going to school. They would come home from the Christmas party and it was just, I didn't remember coming home with that much, I do remember coming home with a lot of paper.
Yeah.
But not like that, it was just like every kid had to bring 20 things, and it was just like. Most of my time, like every kid that's in school and you know, and yeah, I mean.
It's, you know, it's just like. I don't know, like, so one thing I saw at one of the museums over there, it was like the ancient Egyptians knew the importance of the Nile River as a lifeline for their survival. They practiced a sophisticated level of water management. I think like our elected officials that understand the complicated process need to go back and learn ancient like Egyptian history, right? So it has like beginning the nation's earliest dynasties. The oldest record of flood levels is found on the Palermo stone, which dates to the 5th dynasty, and on which 63 levels of the Nile waters were recorded. The Egyptians used a nilometer or nilometer to record the level of the Nile during its annual flood, and the scales on the nilometer were in the form of signs indicating different levels above a low water mark.
Wow.
So it's like, how did we regress from that? You know, and we had this meeting, you know, last year, I believe, they brought in a professor from UT who was trying to sell us on this like carbon capture storage idea. And the question was asked, well, why don't we just plant more trees? And he like, looked at us and was like, trees die. Trees die. Like, oh, like these facilities don't break down.
Yeah.
You know, like trees also capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. That's why we're seeing increased levels, because of the deforestation. And like the clearing of these lands in the Amazon that hold like so much treasures for our survival. You know, we're killing our coral reefs. Like there's just like a whole bunch of things, and yet their answer is like, well, we just got to dredge more so that we can make more money. And it's like, who's profiting off of that? It's not us. You know?
No, we're not, we're just. Wow.
So it was, yeah, like being over there was like a really eye-opening experience, because you saw like the old way of life, like people like living very humbly, like, you know, just surviving off of the land. And then you saw the flashy parts, like the resorts that they were like, you know, creating all these things, like, you know, when our friends over here wanted me to take some sand back, and like the only sand I saw over there was like from the plane, because like everything was like paved over.
Wow.
And so it was just like, whoa, like it was, you know, and then they were like, well, it's probably recommended that you don't drink the water. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm at home.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Totally.
So that's
But-
what we are too here.
Yeah. And we have our elected officials like selling us out, and you know, that's the kind of life that they want to create for us. But I don't even think it's kind of like I was talking to somebody yesterday and they're like, are they trying to depopulate the area? And I was like, wait, what? Like, you know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they are really trying to get people, like they say, if you don't like it, move.
Yeah.
I'm like, my
So
mom and dad are buried here. Like,
So the only people that will be around will be the ones that'll be servicing industry, and then when those people get sick and die, it's like, well, you chose. Or their kids have birth, is, well, you chose to live here. Like you could have lived anywhere, but you chose
I
here.
know, like the neighborhood my dad lives in, he has not gotten a lot of support, and he's like, you know, how can these people be okay? Well, they moved them all in there. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone. They're there, they're close, but they also know they're not gonna get opposition from those neighborhoods that are being affected. And so, and yeah, I mean, the depopulation thing to me, I don't know that our council's aware of that. I don't know that they even have fathomed that, but from a like bigger picture, to me, that's very clear. You look at that map of the industrial build out, and it's really like, it gives me goosebumps, because there's this it's connected now with, I mean, it's just, you can come all the way down to Annabelle, you know, and go, and there's this people in the way, and they happen to be my parents, and you just look at the map, I mean, you don't need an expert, you don't need anybody, you see it. And you look at these people that are living there, holding on to what they worked for, holding on to their lifestyle, because a lot of them are in their 70s. A lot of them, it's not easy to pick up and leave when you're in your 70s. And
why should we?
why should
yeah.
we? And you know, it's like I told my dad, you know, you look at that map, and if they could run you out of here, they would. He's like, if they could kill me, they would, and I'm like, all that, but if they would just run you all out and just remove you from that equation, it's complete, like there's.
We saw it with, I'm wearing the
Yeah.
shirt that says Hillcrest Rising.
They depopulated Hillcrest, that's what they did, you know.
And for what? For these huge tankers where they're like, they want us to celebrate the fact that they're exporting record tonnage and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, what does that mean for us? That means we're paying more. Because with the fracking, they use a lot of our water, they poison our groundwater. It's like being wasted. They're not paying their fair share in taxes, and then they, you know, they can pollute it and they can like leave. And then whose responsibility is it to fix that problem? It's back on the taxpayers. Wow, these industries profit so much. So they can use the water, they could poison the water, they could poison the air, they could create these greenhouse gases. And it's like, why are we continuing with this practice? When, and the thing that I learned over there is like, we cannot rely on our elected officials to solve that for us. Like, we, the people, we have to take on that fight.
So this goes back to, I was good, because I was gonna ask you, you know, like, what was your big lesson because in having the privilege to be able to go to that, I mean, because it
Have
gets,
that experience.
Yeah.
It was meeting other people from other communities throughout the world who are, it's the same story everywhere, y'all. Like, they sell this idea that it's like job creation, that they're helping the economy, that they're revitalizing, like, you know, so many things, but it's not. And like, the thing that we learned, and it was like such a sad realization, is that, you know, their lies are so impactful. And like, at the end of the day, like, we're the ones paying for it through our health, through the environment. And then like they say, well, just leave, you know, and these areas are not thriving. Like, they are not, you know.
What good is a football
Yeah.
stadium if your kids are breathing cancer in their lungs?
Yeah. And
What
like,
good is a football stadium? What good is that?
what good is
If
that?
it, you know, what good is a high school that looks like a community college when it's across the street from get cancer? You know, what good is jobs if these kids will never experience fishing, will never, because I do believe, and I'm not being, you know, sensationalist, I do believe knowing and speaking with people who really truly are experts in engineering, and in that you put those plants in that bay, it will be dead. You
Yeah.
cannot do that. You can't exhaust something like that, just intake and discharge. And a lot of the conversation is around the discharge and the pollution, but the intake is killing. You're literally sucking in and discharging all day, taking what you need, throwing away what you don't. I don't trust the TCEQ, you know, when that landfill fills up, when the trucks get too expensive to drag out the sludge, when it's going right back in there, like it always has. And so it's like, what good is all of that? That's not progress, you know, and it shouldn't be just one person, I feel like y'all have been driving this car long enough. Get out of the driver's seat before y'all drive us off the cliff. You know, just get out of the driver's seat, get out, roll over, move over. Let
Yeah.
our area thrive, let our kids have a future, you
Yeah.
know?
And that's another thing that we, you know, speaking to people from the other communities, it's like their communities aren't growing. Their kids don't want to stick around and live in that kind of environment. They're like, I'd rather move away from this. And that's what we see here. And they think here that the problem, like, you know, the solution is to create more of these jobs. It's like, you're not retaining the community members that you want to. That's not.
They're not the $80,000-$90,000 jobs in an office downtown.
Yeah.
Those are not,
It's
those
backbreaking work.
they're dangerous jobs. They don't always treat them
I mean,
well, like.
My cousin was a secretary at, you know, the refinery, the BP refinery that exploded in Texas City back in 2005. A secretary, and she lost her life
Oh,
because of that explosion. So it's like, you know, it doesn't matter where you work in these things, like, and they're cutting corners left and right. And people go into work because they know they need to put food on the table, and they don't know if they're going to come out that day.
I thought it was the saddest thing when I watched the news about the LNG that blew up in Quintana Island. What was that, Sabine Pass? Was that the Freeport LNG, the explosion they had because there was a little girl on the news and she was a lifeguard. I don't know, she was working the beach, and it's just so sad to me to see people like living their life on the beach and trying to enjoy the beach, and there's the LNG and it exploded, and she was like, it was terrifying, it was scary. And I think about where they chose to put it here, and it's even worse. I mean, that Chenier, that LNG is across the street from an elementary school, it's across the street from a retirement home, it's across the street from a church. And it's like, what good is that brand new school? What good is that brand new school we're running the risk of that thing blowing up?
Let's say, and it's in like Oak Park, right across this, it's like less than a mile from Valero.
Oh, park is very close, environment, yeah.
Yeah.
It's also midway across the street from that Lyondell, you know. And it was kind of, the day it was flaring, we drove by, and it reminded me of our conversation that we had, because there's the big old shit, you know, the ag barn, and it's huge, but the field is like, it's underneath this flare, like the actual field where kids could learn about agriculture and where kids could learn about, you know, agriculture. It is not safe. Yeah, it's not safe. I heard on that interview that our mayor cares about safety. I don't know what, you know.
They care about safety, and yet they're pushing to get this bridge reopened. The one that there was so many problems, which now according, like, it's okay to build. But you know, the sad thing with
I
that.
want to drive on that.
I'm not here, no.
But here's the thing, like, here's the sad thing, and here's my conspiracy theorist hat going on, like, you know, I'm like, it's cheaper for them to pay out a lawsuit if there are any fatalities or casualties. If that bridge were to fall, than it is for them to like start over.
Well, strong, yeah.
That for me is like, they'd rather pay out, use their insurance money to pay out like any.
They're like Lord Farquaad,
Done.
some of you will die.
Yeah.
But that's a price.
Exactly.
That's what I hear when I hear Sean Strawbridge sit there and say, you know, some neighborhoods just don't make it. That's what I hear. Some of you will die, because that could kill elderly people, taking them out of their environment, taking them out of where they've been, taking away. For me, Hillcrest has been such a learning from them, their history and what they've been through. And to me, like, the worst crime of all is how they destroyed their community, how they destroyed their, like, socioeconomically, what they did to them. You know, to do that, to take that away, their community, it's really sad.
Yeah, they forced them there, and now it's like, oh, well, that land's too valuable to us, like, we're gonna take y'all out, and we'll just wait for y'all to die out.
Yeah.
That is just so cruel, and this is supposed to be the body of Christ, Corpus Christi. This is the way we're supposed to be treating our neighbors, treating our community
Their
members,
churches,
treating our loved
churches
ones.
where they worship. That's what respect we have for their churches and their religion. It's sad. And now wanting to put a desal plant, I just don't understand how this council can be so, and I try to leave feelings out of it, you know, I do, because I think a lot of people just don't care. But you can't, I mean, you can't help but see just the heartlessness of this council, just the heartlessness of what they're doing to those people.
Yeah.
It's just, how can you sit there and listen to a woman say, I don't wanna leave Hillcrest, I don't wanna leave my home, it's my home. How can you sit there and say, a desal plant is not allowed per se at all? Which is it, per se at all, like,
Sorry.
you don't wanna breed this hate, and you don't wanna breed this us against you, but what does that create in a person?
Yeah.
With a heart? Like rage, you know, just how can you say that? How can you sit there and laugh it off like that when you're seeing human suffering.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's like, it gets heavy,
Mhm.
you know?
But Hillcrest is fighting back.
Hillcrest is rising.
Hillcrest is rising.
Yep.
They've been rising, they're gonna rise, you know, we're all banding together.
And it
we're
seems
going
like
to,
the
you
more you
know,
try to dismiss them, the louder they get.
It's
And
like
I
a
love it.
phoenix, and that's
Yeah.
why it's Hillcrest rising, it's a phoenix, like they will rise from the
Yeah.
fire and they will come out stronger.
Yeah,
And, you know, like, we really hope that, just like I learned in Egypt, that it's gonna be the people that make this change. It's gonna be us coming together to demand better for our communities, because this is our environment. Like, you know, people are always concerned of, oh, what about the debt that we leave to our future generations? We can't do this, but blah, 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 the debt. But what about, like, you know, their health, like the debt when it comes to the
The polluted
climate?
environment is dead.
Yeah. And that is difficult to clean up.
$1 billion desal plants are dead,
Yeah.
that may or may not work.
Gosh,
That's dead.
I'm terrified of that.
I am too. You're just watching these people just like go driving the golf course, you know? And there was one other thing I wanted to ask about that interview, because I heard the councilman say that these people want to attack industry and they want to take away those jobs, and but they also want streets fixed. How does industry contribute to our streets being fixed? How do they, because the only road that they fix is the one going to their
Yeah.
facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't understand why it just was such a false statement, such a
Yeah.
false.
When your streets look like Swiss cheese, I mean, right, Corpus, like,
I just don't, obviously, they haven't been doing enough or their share if our streets look like this, you know?
yeah, we're all doing the swerve or something like that to avoid all those potholes, like, you know. People think about Corpus and doing the washing machine there at the big front, and it's just like, no, it's like doing like the. When you're driving, you're doing the night at the Rockberry. So you're just driving up.
My son driving on that crosstown.
And the bridge, like that
I'm
new,
not doing the bridge.
well, even the Harbor Bridge now, like,
Yeah.
how, you know, there's just been so many things happening that, so it's like, if it's happening where at this height, and you know, it's been established for this time, like when they want to open up that new bridge.
I just can't believe they're going forward with that. I'm like, you drive by and you see like the base of it is on sand, y'all, it's on sand, like, I'm not an engineer, but I'm just like, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. The fact that there's so much, you know, it's just, there's no transparency, there's a lot of finger pointing, it's this, it's that, it's the city, it's the county, and they all put money in it. They all work for it.
Yeah, the port started it. They wanted this project so they could bring in these huge tanker ships so that they could export more.
And I really don't understand what council gains from it, except like being invited to luncheons, and being able to take pictures of people. I mean, they're PAC money for their campaigns, but the PAC money for your campaign, you have to still spend on the campaign, no? I mean, does that translate into, oh, we'll have a campaign election like merienda? I don't like, and that's like I get to eat well. I'll get the quitas that plate I don't understand.
Is it really
I
just
really-
image? I know, I've tried to look there deeper, and that's about as far as I see, like, they just wanna cut the ribbon and take a picture, and they just want to.
It's kind of like in high school, like they want,
Yeah.
like you just, so we basically are
They're the
high
summer
school.
weekly.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I tend to watch that movie way too much.
I like movie.
You're right, it feels like that, it feels like they are, y'all, yeah.
What are you getting at? Because you're not thinking, you're not reading. You get up and use the bathroom whenever people are coming to talk. I really, like, okay, do they get the agenda and then are they like driving, on the way? Council trying to figure out what they're getting, then they look to see who's voted. That's the other thing. I don't know if you've ever,
I hate that I didn't clip it, but I literally heard a councilman last week saying like, you are not doing enough to promote us, like, you're not doing enough to show the good that we do, and it kind of stopped me and was kind of like, it was also the councilman that was saying, I want something done in my lifetime. And so it kind of made me think like, they want their name on the flag, or they want to be seen.
So they want people, like, they want for the city, like, they want campaigns paid for on the city's dime.
Yes,
Like, by
basically,
taxpayers,
yes.
like, we're doing all this good, create a commercial for us to promote like all the good that we're doing.
Yes, and then the city manager is like, our communications team is gonna do that. So yeah, on city coin, they want to be like honored and just like accolades. They want accolades. They want all of that is very important to them. Yes, I believe that is their motivator. A lot of them, that's about as deep as I can go. I mean, maybe there's money involved. I don't know. I don't get into too much.
I don't know.
of
I
that.
mean, I have looked at their
But-
campaign finance reports and there's like PACs and I mean, real estate seems really big for them.
Mhm.
They get lots of money there, but
Mhm.
but again, it's for the campaign and by just like, what's the translation? Like the exchange.
Mhm.
And I just don't get it, except that, I mean, do they pay for like? Can they pay like out of my account, I'll do a donation for the state of the energy. Or the state of the city,
Well, I don't know, those are all paid for by like industry.
That's
I mean,
there's
it's all
volunteer
sponsored
stuff,
by-
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
flights and dinners, but they'll say it's a campaign event.
Literally, there's
But-
nothing like if we get a splash pad. But then, or like the water, I remember like the gardens downtown, they did that and that was cool, and then they broke, and then they didn't fix them for years, or the water garden was beautiful and you had the water, and then it broke. And then didn't
Now
fix
they
it
wanna
for
pave
years.
over it.
Now they want to squeeze the hotel in there.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, I have heard them kind of like go to bat for their hotelier friends, like. When they were killing the short-term rentals, they said that we have to look out for our hotel. People and yeah, I don't know what motivates those people. I don't
Cause
know.
it's not quality of life.
No, I mean, one thing, like, it just like, I've had the ability to travel and stuff like that, like, and live in other places. Have these council members just been here like their entire lives, or have they experienced like other areas where it's like, oh, that's an amazing idea, let's bring that back home?
Yeah.
Or is their imagination and their vision so
Well,
short-sighted and
it's
so
like
small?
when you don't
that-
track it.
Yeah.
I would think all used to the bay if you don't track, like. Do they ever, I don't know, I know like with the short-term rental, the mayor was like, I stay in hotels. And I do, but whenever you're like, my husband's done like travel nursing, and there was people there that said that, like, I don't have parties at my house, I've only had. Travel nurses, it's a single person that comes and stays here, and they give me the ability to pay my mortgage. Or they give me the ability to babysit my grandkids while my daughter goes to college and I don't have to work outside of the home, like. And their response was like, I stay, and so like that, just that inability to see anything different from what I don't have 3 sons, and so. I don't sleep in a hotel, I hate renting hotel rooms because it's like quiet and there's like 2 little bitty beds and somebody's on a roll out bed and a dog, and it's just like, I just paid $300 to listen to you snore. Where you can sometimes find a little home that's a retired teacher who's beautifying her neighborhood. Who's taking that money from the rental and fixing up a roof or planting a garden or making community, and. I know there were a lot of different opinions about that, about the short-term rental. I didn't get involved in it or follow it, but I did see a lot of people be ignored. Just completely ignored, and different people with different stories, and that was their logic. I don't use that, I use hotels, so I think that's what we need to do.
Maybe that's some of their.
She was like, that's weird. No, She might go on because it was like weird.
Yeah.
It's not that weird at all.
I mean, but it's like community, not community. Like, you know?
You're so good at words.
That, yeah. Community.
So it's, but yeah, like, you know, at the end of the day, it's us doing this. It's our, you know, folks who watch us, thanks y'all, shout out. You know, who actually want that way of life that,
Yeah.
you know, going to Germany, like you see, like there's parks and green spaces and trees and families spending time in these trees, like, you know, in these tree lined parks, and, you know, and they're safe, and, you know, they're there at all hours of the day. You know,
Yeah.
kids, like their school children are actually going to the park during the day, and they're walking with their school, like their classroom to the park, and their teacher. There's like, you know, affordable like mass transportation, so you can get around, so you don't have to rely on, you know, cars. There's bike lanes, you know. I got passed up by like a 70-year-old. It was just, you know, it's just like so amazing, you know, what other countries are able to accomplish, because the people are like, we want this, and we're, you know, we're demanding it. So
Yeah, so that's the thing though, like, 'cause, I mean, mesquite, I'm sorry, oak grows here, the crepe myrtles, like, we could have that, or we could, like, I was even like, if you put them around the sidewalks, you could actually walk in a sidewalk and get exercise, you know, and that kind of thing, but,
The oak, the live oak, I don't give mine enough water, and they're the only thing that keeps me safe from those chemicals around me.
but I mean, ultimately, we're gonna need to have just new leadership. When you've got the kind of people that are there right now that are resentful of residents taking time out of their day to go talk to them, you know, that,
It's like we're like in a little abusive relationship with them. I wanna break.
yeah,
We do.
we deserve better.
It's gonna have a lifetime ending.
we're in the lifetime. We're gonna have a Hallmark.
So I'm gonna put my shows.
Right now, we're in a telenovela, that's what's going on right now.
Right now, it's just nasty. Reality show, I'm like. We're in a horror movie right now.
All right,
Yeah, both. There's some good people.
Yes, I
Me
do
too.
too, yeah, I do too. I see, and I think, I just see little things here and there, and I just see people paying attention, and people think, what, they want to do what for they? No way, you know, once they get over the shock, it's like, that's a terrible idea. I'm like, industry uses what, how much more water, like,
Yeah.
it's just.
Like, yeah, wait.
I know, really, and how already.
We should have like the meme, like the bathing, yeah, wait.
all right.
I'm sorry, did I break you up on carbon capture and hydrogen?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
there's
want
just
to,
a
and I
solution.
keep seeing myself, because I'm like, oh, I'm a little fish, oh, I'm a little fish, and I'm sorry, I always tell myself, one, I need to sit on my hands and stop flailing them around and quit interrupting, so I'm sorry if I did, but. It's just, it's another scam.
It's another scam.
We don't, it's another experiment, another guinea pig, another water guzzler, just stop.
Yeah, and the
Yeah, wait.
the carbon they capture, like, oh, we're gonna do this because of the climate crisis. They're just gonna sell it back to themselves after they get sold millions of dollars in taxpayer funding for like enhanced oil recovery, where they re-inject it back in the wells to take every last. So it's not even gonna be like to solve the climate crisis, it's so that they're saying, hey, we're doing this to help, you know, the environment out. But it's really because we this is our way of getting more from that.
And it's not great.
No, so no way, Yahweh.
No more.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right, everybody.
we'll talk to you all, take care.
Take care.
Bye, Isablanca.